You would take a dietary vitamin to keep your body at optimum health, but we're surrounded by sound. That is the power.
That's so cool.
Ancient cultures have known this for millennia.
So our hearts are more powerful than our brains?
The electromagnetic wave output of your heart is 5,000 times greater than your brain.
Erica, thank you so much for joining me today. It is an honor to have you.
Oh, it's a pleasure and an honor. It's a great opportunity to talk to you. Talking about my favorite subjects.
So as a nice foundation, can you explain what vibrational sound healing is?
Well, it's using the therapeutic use of sound and vibration, which is part of sound, to help the human body, you and I, be the very best that we can be in terms of our body. And that will be different things to different people, but it's the best we can be in any moment is a kind of an umbrella term for vibrational sound healing. I like to call them sonic vitamins because to me, you would take a dietary vitamin to keep your body at optimum health with your diet, but we're surrounded by sound all the time. Our bodies are picking up on sound. It impacts upon us. So I came up with this idea that you should take sonic vitamins, that you should use sound as a vitamin. I think you say vitamin, tomato, tomato. But anyway, the intake of your sound, you can target and use it to enhance your health.
Great, yeah. Okay. So can you explain the difference between sound, frequency, and vibration? Because they're all connected.
They are all connected. Sound is the perception of vibration and frequency. You know, we hear it in our ears, or we can record it on a computer as we are doing at the moment.
Mhm.
It is the physical manifestation, if you like, of vibration and frequency. Vibration is the movement, the oscillation of the air or a drum or something like that. And the frequency, the vibration is in like one large wave, or maybe it's lots of little waves. The higher the frequency, the more little waves you have, which is known as cycles per second, or after one of the German physicists who documented it's called hertz. Cycles per second and hertz are the same things. It's the number of sound waves that happen in 1 second is basically the scientific answer to that.
Okay, perfect. That was a great explanation. So, for example, let's say 12 hertz. So that is 12 waves
Per
happening per
second.
second.
Yeah.
Okay. How are our thoughts energy, and how does the composition of atoms show that?
Well, our thoughts inside our head can create what's called electromagnetic waves. Now, they're not quite the same as sound waves. A sound wave needs a physical medium in order to happen. So it needs air, or
Mhm.
waves in the water, for example, need water to create the wave.
Right.
In space, out in outer space, where there is no air or any of that, sound waves can't travel, but electromagnetic waves can, which is why when we talk about higher frequency or connecting to all that is, electromagnetic waves can actually connect where sound waves don't go. And our brains create electromagnetic waves. Even more so is our heart, that the frequency, the electromagnetic wave output of your heart is 5,000 times greater than your brain. So that's why it's so important when you're using sound healing or you're using energetic thought and affirmations. It's so important to engage your heart's intention, because that is the power.
Wow, that's so cool.
It
So
is pretty cool.
so yeah, so our hearts are more powerful than our brains, would you
Oh,
say?
absolutely. And the
Absolutely.
ancient cultures have known this for millennia. Our science is now catching up on this, and we've been able to prove it by measuring the electromagnetic output of the heart and the brain. And of course, Tibetan monks and the ancients who've worked with meditation deeply and who are trained in it know this so well. And there's a kind of coherence that happens between your head and the heart, and they know totally precisely how to coordinate that, because that's what they do. They meditate all day.
I hear people say to raise your vibration. So, why is raising your vibration important? And what does it mean for the collective, for the whole, for society?
I think that it has been demonstrated, sometimes scientifically, but also, again, the ancients have known it for years, that the higher the frequency, in other words, the more waves, the more beneficial it is for our body. And there is a theory in all sorts of wisdom traditionals that if you raise your frequency, you're putting yourself in touch with universal energy, whatever that means to you. And I'm not going to get into wisdom traditions and religion and all of that, because that's a whole different conversation. But it's pretty certain that if you raise your vibration of your thought, of your heart's intention, then you are connecting with the higher possibilities of life and life beyond, if that's something you believe in.
Mhm. Okay.
So it's pretty important to keep a high vibration.
Right. But then it confuses me as, for example, our brain waves, they all have a certain frequency and they're, for example, theta waves have a certain frequency. I believe it's 40 hertz, but love as well has a frequency and it's described as 5 to 8 hertz. So why then how would that be good for us to raise our vibration if our brain waves are at
You
around
want your brain, the brain wave is talking about our state of receptivity, our relaxation. So to be in a theta brainwave is that bit when you're just about to fall asleep, or you're in hypnosis, or you're meditating, you're in a very receptive state. That's what that is about, delta and theta waves. But as part of a range of tuning forks called the solfeggio, which again is based on ancient wisdom and codes coming out of the Bible and a song of John the Baptist, it has been demonstrated that 5 to 8 hertz, which is part of this solfeggio range of frequencies, it's called the mira gestorum. It's in the Latin, which is the miracle frequency. And there has been scientific research to show that it has a major beneficial effect on human DNA. And also, it's said to make you feel more loving. At one point, I believe there was an experiment on the island of Ibiza where they played music with 5 to 8 hertz in all the nightclubs to see if people would fall in love more easily.
wow.
It's the love frequency.
Did the experiment work?
Do you know what? I never saw the results, but they were sufficiently convinced to think it was a pretty good idea to play it in nightclubs.
Right. Speaking of music, can you explain the difference between 432 hertz and 440 hertz regarding today's standard tuning of Western music?
Of course. There are all sorts of theories. Some of them you might like to say conspiracy theories about this, whether you buy into them or not, depends on what you like to believe in. But it is thought that originally music was a lower frequency. Obviously, going back through the eons, things weren't recorded, but there is a scale, a range of scales from Pythagoras. And Pythagoras was a pretty good mathematician, but also he was a healer. And he said that he had this range of frequencies that raises up from 8 hertz. And 432 is part of that. And it was said that in ancient times, musical instruments and people sang in 432 hertz. For sure, it's easier on the voice. There's no two ways about it. If you ask a singer and you put a piece of music into 432 hertz, it is easier on the voice. I believe Luciano Pavarotti was a great advocate of it. I think the current opera singer Andrea Bocelli used it. The opera composer Verdi was a great exponent. He wrote to the government wanting it standardized in that. But at some point in 1953, somebody decided that no, all orchestras are going to be in 440 hertz, which is slightly tighter tuning.
Mhm.
Now, there is a theory that what that does is when you play music at the tighter tuning, because it doesn't resonate so well with the human body and the human voice, that if you believe the conspiracy theories, it makes people more anxious, more irritable, because it's too tight a tuning. It tightens us up. It makes us tense. And it is said that the 432 hertz has the opposite effect, that it is a more natural tuning for the human ear and the human body. And I recently came across some research that apparently now, of course, why not? You can buy an app for your phone that will retune and play to you all your MP3s in 432 hertz.
Whoa.
So I would say the proof is in the eating. Try it and see how you feel about listening to music in 432.
Wow, okay. And so today's music, most of it, it's in 440 hertz.
For sure, because that's the standard tuning. When an orchestra say, let's tune up, give us an A, Bill, the A, which is the middle of the orchestral tuning, is 440 hertz. So if you tune down to 432, some orchestras do it, some orchestras don't. It's said that John Lennon's Imagine is in 432 hertz. I can't verify that or not, but that wouldn't surprise me. He was a pretty smart guy.
So whenever we tune our guitar or we tune our piano, that we're tuning it to 440 hertz.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's possible easily to tune a guitar down to 432. Not quite so easy to tune a piano to 432. Keyboard, you can do it easily.
Okay, super interesting. I would like to discuss a practical, everyday example of sound waves that everyone would know. So could you explain an ultrasound and how that works?
Well, ultrasound is very much more a medical application. Basically, you send out a very high frequency wave that goes into the body, and it comes back as an echo and creates an image on a screen of the inside of the body. That's why it's used in that way. I believe that recently it's been used a lot to work on people, particularly men with prostate cancer. I happen to know someone recently who chose that as a treatment over radiation and chemotherapy, and it has been successful. So that's the cutting edge end of ultrasound. But of course, we look at babies in the womb with it. We use it to image inside the body.
And that's a practical example of how we actually use sound in a medical way. Amazing, amazing. So regarding disease and bacteria or virus, how can we use frequency to eliminate disease if we wanted to?
If you go back to the mind-heart connection, the electromagnetic waves, then one of the reasons that affirmations work is that your body is listening to you all the time, 24/7, and you're 70% water. Now, there's some amazing work done by the late Dr. Masuro Emoto, who was a Japanese researcher, who took vials of water and put them under the microscope. And he took water from where there'd been the nuclear accident at Fukushima, and the molecules were horrible and they were misshapen and gray because they'd been irradiated. And then he took vials of water and he said things like, I hate you, you're ugly, you're horrible. And when they put the water under the microscope, the molecules were misshapen and horrible. But when he took that same vial back and said, you're beautiful, I'm so sorry I said that, I love you, you're the most beautiful water. They put the water back under the microscope, there were these beautiful crystalline images. So you can use sound, your voice, or your thoughts to program water. There's no two questions about it. He proved it. Now, if you think that you are 70% water, what you think and what you say has an enormous effect on your body. And indeed, if you say something to someone else, you are impacting their physical well-being because they are also 70% water.
Wow. Yeah. And water has memory.
It does.
How does the composition of atoms show that we have a physical body and an energetical body?
Well, there's lots of theories. For example, there are medical doctors who have trained in acupuncture. Now, that to me is interesting because we still don't have the science to see the energy meridians in the body. But there are medical doctors who now train in acupuncture because they see the results. It's demonstrable. It works. So there's an example of the fact that we have an energetic body as well as a physical body. It's just our science hasn't caught up yet. That
Mm.
said, there are pictures, I think it's called cerulean photographs, that will show you the colors in your aura. But we're a multi-layered being. We're not just our physical. We may have a soul at our core, but then we've got the physical body, which is your bones and your the organs in your skin and all of that kind of thing. And then you've got the emotional body, which is your feelings and your moods, which is a little bit out from the body.
Mm.
And then you've got the mental body coming out further, which is your thoughts. And your thoughts affect your mood, which affects your physical body. So there you've got this interplay, this interdependence between these energetic layers. And then you come further out and you've got the causal body, which is almost like a kind of bridge between them when you come further out. So you've got all these layers, and then you're going into the spiritual, because you're from the causal body, you're going to the etheric body and the catheric body. So you've got all these layers of the human. Think of us like one of those Russian babushka dolls. So you start with the physical, and then you're going out with the emotional and the mental, and then you're going to the spiritual realms that eventually ends up connecting you to all of consciousness. So that's quite a lot of energetic human to be thinking of. And of course, everything we do, those layers are all interdependent. If one of them comes out of tune, as I would say, or comes out of balance, it's going to affect all the others. So you want to keep your energetic body well tuned.
And how do we do that?
Ooh, a myriad ways. Thoughts,
Mhm.
um, what we eat. I know we're going to come on to this later, but what do you put in your body? Um, any form of sound healing, your thoughts, your voice, singing, humming, going to a gong bath, using tuning forks, anything that is a positive that can keep you in, as we said, higher vibration.
Right.
It keeps all these layers
Mm.
balanced.
Yeah, beautiful. And so, if everything is energy and everything has frequency, then that means food has frequency as well. So, how does that affect us when we're eating, for example, fruits and vegetables versus meat or processed foods?
There have been many books written on things called "You Are What You Eat." And it's true, what we put in our body is going to have a physical effect. So you want to put the best in your body, the best fuel. We've already spoken about the importance of water and the effect that that's going to have. If you think that fruits and vegetables are also, they have a huge amount of water in them. So
Mm.
how are they grown? Are they organically grown? Have they had chemicals put on them that, frankly, if you poured them on your plate, you wouldn't want to be eating them? A lot of our fruit and vegetables these days, in order to have unseasonal vegetables available all year, they're treated with chemicals and sometimes they're irradiated, which is one way of us having this constant supply of fruit and vegetables that are not seasonal.
Mm.
But then you might want to consider, well, I'm putting that in my body. It would be better to keep a balance of seasonal fruit and vegetables and non-treated, as organic and as natural as you can possibly get. And at the very least, I would say, and I don't always remember, but I try, bless your food or thank your food before you eat it. Because again, we've said vibration, thought is important, even if it isn't organic. Bless it, thank it. That high vibrational intent that you put in your food, anything will help.
Right. So, if we eat ultra processed food, does that lower our vibration?
I don't think it does you any particular good on any level. I mean, yes, it could lower your vibration. Also, you're missing nutrients.
Yeah.
So just the more organic, the fresher you can get your food, the better.
Mm. Okay. Right. And regarding our different levels of our energetical body, because we have different levels of our body, it's not just a physical body. How does that affect things like physical touch, whether it be something as simple as an affirming hand on the shoulder or sex with a partner? How do things like this move past the physical and into the energetic or spiritual?
Okay. Well, if we go back to the idea of waves,
Hmm.
Your waves are coming along and they meet someone else's waves and their energetic body, which is outside the physical, and those waves touch. If there's a sort of harmonic convergence, I'm going to use that, the two waves would get along quite well together, or they might clash. And you instinctively know when you meet someone, even when they're a little way away from you, whether you feel comfortable in their presence. And it's because your auras, your different layers of your body are already tuning into them before they've even come near you. And
Whoa.
you know instinctively that you just maybe don't want that person to touch you. Sometimes you get a strange feeling and you shake someone's hand and you just think, really? You just don't want them to touch you and you don't know why. And it's because actually your energetic waves are already interconnecting with theirs, and maybe there's a mismatch in the way that that happens. They're not vibrating in the same way that you are. So if you take that even further into intimacy, when you've got someone physically embracing you, that's going to have a huge effect if they're not a good match.
Right, so if they're not a good match, if they have lower frequency, what does that do to you?
It can, well, in extremis, it can leave you with PTSD. To take it absolutely to the extreme, if you were raped by someone, their energy is certainly not a match for yours. And it leaves people with terrible trauma. And the trauma is not only the fact that mentally they have been attacked, it's the leftover energetic imprint of that person that needs clearing.
Wow. Okay, so whenever we meet people in person and we shake their hand, like we are not just physical beings, we are energetic. So we are meeting them before we meet them physically.
Yes. I'm a great believer in, and we did it all through lockdown with COVID, of doing namaste. I like namaste because it's a way of interacting with the person's energy field before you've ever reached out and touched them. I quite like that idea.
How is saying namaste doing that?
Namaste means my spirit honors your spirit.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
That's what it means. And we did it all. I don't know what happened in the States, but in the UK, we did it all the time in lockdown because you couldn't shake someone's hand. And actually, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Right. I didn't experience that. We didn't do that. But that sounds beautiful.
I still do it sometimes.
Oh, that's great. That's nice. Um,
I mean, the origin of a handshake is actually quite practical because in ye days of old, when you had swords, the
mhm,
hand that you held out to shake the other person's hand, it showed that you didn't have a dagger or sword in your hand.
right. Mm. Here's another question. How can we tune up our auric field?
Oh, lots of ways. Affirmations, because that's going to have your mental body is impacting your emotional body, is impacting your physical body. Humming, there's an entire book written by the eminent sound healer Jonathan Goldman called The Humming Effect. And humming transcends language. You know, to go, anybody can hum. It doesn't matter what language you speak. And it has a very, very affirming effect physically, mentally, emotionally on the body to hum. So it's something very simple. Your voice, chanting, singing. Perhaps if you don't like to do either of those, meditating
Mm,
on an ancient mantra or just on a phrase that you like. There are so many ways of tuning your body. Choose something positive that makes you feel good. You can
okay.
go to a gong bath or get a practitioner to do you work with tuning forks.
Right. So, and tuning forks, how are tuning forks used to help your auric field?
Tuning forks are actually my thing. When I wrote the book Vibrational, that sound healing, that's my thing. I did a very broad-based training in sound healing, but I came to the fact that I personally like using tuning forks because they're very targeted. And there are many, many systems, the solfeggio system, the Pythagorean system, there are angel tuners, you name it, they're out there. I love working with Om tuners, and Om is a very, very special sound. It is said to be the sound of creation. If you think of the Big Bang in scientific terms, If you think of in the Bible, it said, in the beginning, there was the word. Well, in my opinion, the word was Om. Aboriginals believe the world was sung into being. Wherever you look, there is a wisdom tradition that said that sound was the beginning of creation. And on this planet, I can't speak to other planets because I haven't been there, but on this planet, Om, the middle sound of Om, is 136.10 hertz. And that is the same vibration as our planet. There's a work called The Cosmic Wave by Hans Cousteau that documented the frequency of all the planets in our solar system, and Earth is 136.10 hertz, and that is also the sound of Om.
Mm.
So I bought you, I don't know if we can see this. I'm just going to have a look and see how this looks. So that is an Om tuner. Let's see if we can hear these on microphone. I hit them with a mallet. So I'll put these to the microphone.
You let it play all the way through, right? Why do you
I
do
do.
that?
If I'm using it on someone, I would use these tuners. I would use in your auric field. So I'd use it about the body, different layers of the body. I'd be searching with them to see whether I feel that I want to be in the emotional layer, whether I want to be in the mental layer, whether I want to come further up into the causal layer and bring it back down. I'm clearing people's auric fields using the Om. There's also a version of those forks that come with little weights on the end, and they're designed to be put physically onto the body, so you can literally fire the sound straight into the bones of the body, which sometimes that's what you want to do if you want a very physical effect. Your body instinctively knows what Om is because it's the sound of the planet we live on.
And so whenever we say Om to ourselves, it's like we're using that tuning fork.
It is. It is. I mean, ideally, you want the sound and the frequency, but when you're saying it, you're actually invoking creation. Yes.
Mm. What does it mean for our immune system to be tuned?
Well, most of your immune system lives in your gut.
Okay.
But your immune system, again, as human beings, as human bodies, we want to be in something called homeostasis, which means balance. And we have two parts of our nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. We have parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. And you want to be balanced between the two of them to really have your immune system working well. What tends to happen in our modern world is that we get pushed into fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, which has a perfectly reasonable use. When we used to run away from saber-toothed tigers, you needed it. But in this day and age, it tends to be stress that triggers us. Like imagine sitting in a car and you're in traffic jam and road rage, and you can't do anything about it. So you're stressed and your sympathetic nervous system is firing and firing, but it's not coming back down again because the thing that used to bring us back into balance was physically running away from a saber-toothed tiger, but we don't do that anymore. So we just remain stuck in this very stressed state. And that's not good for us at all. So for your immune system to be working at its optimum, you want to be in that balance of coming back out of sympathetic. And if you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, you're just completely relaxed. I don't know if you've ever met some people who are just so relaxed, you want to give them a slap up the side of the head because they're just not engaged in life. They're too far the other way. You want to be in a balance, and your immune system works best when you're in that balance. And that's what tuning your body will do. It brings you into that perfect balance where you can be, as I said at the beginning of this, the best that you can be for you.
Can you explain what nitric oxide is?
It's fundamental to our health. It's a nitrogen molecule bound to an oxygen molecule, and and it's fundamental to all life on this planet, animal life, plant life. You need nitric oxide. And in humans, it's produced really with the vascular, the nervous system, and the immune system. It's kind of bound together. And it produces a kind of gas, which sounds ever so sweet, and it puffs, little puffs, which is what we want to be when we're really balanced. And I think it's about 6 puffs a minute or something like that. But when we go into stress, when we're attacked by a virus or a bacterium or stress, life stress, our body ups the puffing cycle. So there's more and more nitric oxide, which again, when you want to run away from a saber-toothed tiger or your body's being attacked by a virus or a bacterium, is what you need, because actually nitric oxide can neutralize some viruses and some bacteria. But you don't want to stay that way. And of course, what happens is, particularly with stress, it damages our immune system because we stay with the nitric oxide at too high a level, and it puts a huge stress on the cardiovascular system. So again, you want to come back to the balance of just nice little puffs every 6 seconds. So, but it is fundamental to our life, nitric oxide. There's a particular tuning fork, 128 hertz, that I have used on clients, and it in particular is brilliant at bringing us back to that perfect balance with nitric oxide.
And how do we get out of balance with nitric oxide?
Stress. A lot of the time in modern life, it's stress, or because you're fighting a bacteria or a virus, you're fighting an illness. It's your body's alert system, but you don't want to be on permanent alert. It's exhausting.
How does breathing interact with our nervous system?
Oh, breathing is optimum. Breathing is the first thing you ever did on this planet, and it'll be the last thing you ever do on this planet. You inspired when you arrived, and you will expire when you stop living on this planet. The trouble is that in between, a lot of the time we don't breathe properly. People in the Eastern traditions say the West doesn't breathe properly, and they're quite right, we don't. We're all up the top, we hyperventilate, we don't belly breathe as we did as a child, because we're too busy trying to hold our abs in and look however we want to look. And it's really important to deep breathe. Not only does it oxygenate your body deeply when you breathe properly, it also has a very, very calming effect on the body. It particularly interacts with a nerve called the vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve in your head. It's called the wandering nerve because it's so long, and it goes all the way from your brainstem all the way through your chest and into your abdomen. It impacts all of the organs there. So you're talking lungs, you're talking heart, you're talking liver, all those organs. And breathing particularly stimulates the vagus nerve to keep us again in balance and in good health. So at the very least, it's doing that. It's also very calming. If you find yourself getting very stressed, or you can't get a grip or a hold on your emotions, you know you're upset, you know you're irritable, but you're not quite sure why, you can't get a handle on it. If you would just sit and belly breathe, take that breath right in through your nose and down into your belly for 4 seconds. And then you release it back out for 6 seconds. And you do that 2 or 3 times. Suddenly life becomes a lot more clear, and you also feel you're calmer. And when you're calm, you get more clarity. You stop being stressed. You can get a better grip on life.
So why is belly breathing better than chest breathing?
Because you're taking in more oxygen. Your lungs are expanding. When you let your belly go out, it makes space in your abdomen for your lungs to extend down where they should. Whereas if you hyperventilate at the top, you're not taking in enough oxygen, but you're not allowing your nervous system, particularly the vagus nerve, to operate properly because you're breathing all up the top. You're very tense. It's not good for us.
Okay, I never knew that. And so we breathe with our belly.
You
as
do.
a child.
If you think about, here's an exercise you can try. I love doing this one because I work as a professional voiceover as well, and it's one of the things I trained with. Lie on your back and put a book on your tummy and try breathing in. So the book goes up slightly and comes back down slightly. And do that for a while till you get the hang of really taking the breath right down into your belly, which is how you breathed as a baby. And then we kind of say we lose it because we become so concerned with keeping the abdomen in and being uptight and all of the rest of it. And it will make a huge difference. And you can actually practice breathing into the belly and then breathing out in 3 sections, breathing, letting the belly go back down again, and then feeling your back at the back come slightly in. And the last thing you let go of is up here, the top breath. And it makes a huge difference to breathe like that. And any actor or any singer would tell you the difference it makes.
So should you breathe like that throughout the whole day?
When you remember, yes. It's great for supermarket cues. When you're standing in a supermarket going, will the person in front of me just get on with it? just take a deep breath right down into your belly and let it go, and your mood will change.
Yeah.
Great for
That
dentists' chairs as well. Very good for dentists.
mm. When you're talking about it, I'm just now trying to implement it right now, and already feel myself a little bit calmer.
It's very calming. It's working on your nervous system, which again is going to impact your immune system.
Mhm. Right.
And let your shoulders drop. We wear our shoulders like earrings. Get
Right,
your
and that's
and
because
it
of
does
tension.
automatically let your shoulders drop.
And because we wear I like what you said, we wear our shoulders like
Like
earrings.
earrings.
Yeah,
Yep,
and it's all the
we do.
tension there.
Mm.
What is transference when talking about affirmations?
Transference, we slightly touched on earlier, is being in that very receptive state. So being in a theta state of mind, which is
Mhm.
when you're just about to fall asleep or in your hypnosis or meditating, it makes you more susceptible to take in information. And if that information is the positive kind, because it's affirmations, then that's the best time to do it.
Right, but how is that the best time to do it? What does that do for us? The slower
It,
the brain waves, the more
yeah,
calmer we
it's
are.
a way. You have a subconscious mind as well as a conscious mind,
Mhm.
and it allows you to get in and under to that subconscious mind, which is where you need to plant the seed of the affirmation. So being in that theta state, that transference state, is the best. You can say affirmations all day and they will work, but they work even better when you get under the surface into your subconscious mind and really plant that seed.
And so are we in the theta state whenever we just wake up early in the morning?
Some people are. I would like to say yes. I'm sure some people possibly are not, and there are people who ping awake, going, "Oh God, I'm late." Not necessarily so, but generally speaking, if you wake up gently, or when you're just dropping off to sleep, you're in that very receptive state.
Mm.
It's why some people also have they put programs on they listen to all night, and they play an affirmation all night, because when you're asleep, you're taking in affirmations.
Wow, subconsciously.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
a way of getting through something called the amygdala, which is part of your brain. It gets past the conscious mind and it gets into the subconscious.
Wow, cool. And so the subconscious mind, is the subconscious mind the part of us that makes our dreams?
Doesn't make our well, it does make our dreams. It kind of runs the show in a way that we are not aware of. It's kind of like the depths of the ocean. You're not aware of it on the surface, but quite often you have patterns of thought or patterns of behavior that's buried so deep that consciously you're not aware of them. You can really bury stuff, and your subconscious has got all of that,
Mm,
which is why affirmations work. Because if you have got a damaging pattern of thought that's so deep in your subconscious because it was so horrible you didn't want to look at it, affirmations get underneath. They do the work.
right. Okay, so cool. So it's our subconscious mind talking to our conscious mind.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All the time. It's just that we're not aware of it.
Mm, okay. And so how do we change our subconscious mind? Is that through affirmations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps, again, if you're meditating or you're doing hypnosis work with a therapist. Again, you're getting under that surface. Why do I behave like this? Why am I addicted to food? Why can't I give up alcohol? Why do I smoke? Where are my patterns coming from that I need this physical thing? It's all in the patterns are in your subconscious mind. So if you can get underneath to see what the pattern is, it's almost like a computer program. You've got this computer program running in the background going, you need food for this. Every time you feel upset, you're going to eat 3,000 donuts or have too much to drink. If you can get into that patterning and reprogram what's going on in your subconscious and find out why you felt that way, that's why affirmations work.
Okay.
It's getting into it's getting down under the programming.
And that's also how you said hypnosis works as
Yeah,
well, because it goes
it
into the
does.
subconscious
Yeah,
mind.
you're getting into the subconscious mind.
Wow. That's so cool. So, because a lot of people think hypnosis is fake or it's hard to believe,
I've
but
had it done, it works. And sometimes when you're doing hypnosis, because I've got a very critical mind. I'm a Libra. My conscious mind's always firing and they're going, what are they doing? Why is this working? Sometimes when I've had hypnosis, I'm aware that my conscious mind is not letting go, but it still worked because at the same time, the person doing the hypnosis was talking to my subconscious mind and it worked.
How does that person talk to your subconscious mind?
Because you're in that very relaxed state. A
Mm.
hypnotist would explain it better than I would, but you're in that theta where you're able to get under the surface into this program, this subconscious programming, and figure out what's going on with you, what's driving you, that's maybe creating a behavior you don't like.
Okay, and if we want to change our subconscious mind, so go into a theta state to help us do that, can we use vibrations and frequency?
Certainly.
Yeah.
You can listen to uplifting music, meditate, breathe very slowly. So you come into that very relaxed state that makes you feel like you do when you're nearly dropping off to sleep. There are targeted frequencies. I've got something called an awakening bell that I use here with clients that instantly just drops you straight into theta. There are all sorts of frequencies that you could choose. There's thousands of them when you go on YouTube that will put you into a theta state. Your blood is 321.9 hertz. So if you had an issue with your blood, you can find all these frequencies on the internet. Just play them to yourself. One I particularly like when I'm trying to be on a diet. Fat cells vibrate at 295.8 hertz. So if I'm having trouble sticking to the diet and getting that weight to shift, even when I'm on the diet, I think, why won't it go yet? I will spend a day with that just running in the background. You'll find hundreds of them in the internet, and it's targeting. The frequency is targeting that which you want to do.
Wow, that's amazing. Just how with a virus or disease you can play the
Well,
resonance.
that's when this man, this wonderful name, Raymond Royal Rife, who I think was American, who really took this to the nth degree, and he created a machine called the Royal Rife machine that he maintained, targeted specific diseases and specific bacterium and specific viruses. And it was his belief and theory that if you could hit the exact frequency, you would disrupt the pattern of the virus or the bacterium and you'd neutralize it. And there was all sorts of controversy. Of course, mainstream medicine went for him tooth and nail. There was a very famous television presenter over here who had cancer and who found out about the Royal Rife machine and bought one from America and used it and said very publicly that his cancer had gone. And of course, the medical profession went for him in the press big time because they said it was quackery. But nevertheless, he maintains, and there is this Royal Rife. I think there's one in Glastonbury, and I'm sure there's some in the States. It's very targeted. And I believe now there's a lot of research going on in the background for something called a med bed, which is lying someone on a bed and using targeted frequencies to achieve certain health outcomes, which basically means they're targeting organs and bacteria and cells to get a certain effect. It's still experimental, but I know it's running in the background somewhere. It may be the future of medicine. Why would it not be?
Right. Yeah. I think stuff like this is becoming more mainstream
I mean,
slowly.
there was an amazing scientist called Nikola Tesla, because of course, again, mainstream destroyed him because he was years ahead of his time. He
Right.
said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And he was right.
Right.
He was
Yeah.
just light years ahead of his time.
So now we're probably trying to go back to discovering that, start his work again.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he was also about to give us all free electricity, and there are certain powers to be that certainly weren't going to have that.
Yeah, still today, probably they will not
Yeah.
let that happen. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool about free energy, but that's a whole other can of.
He had a way of transmitting it like radio waves, and he was stopped.
And so is his research, it's gone, or?
I don't know. There was recently that movie about his life. I don't know where that research has got to, but he certainly had that intention, and he said he knew how to do it.
Oh my gosh. See, that's about generational forgetfulness, because the transfer of knowledge gets lost. But yeah, that transfer of knowledge was probably stopped
Yes,
from happening.
absolutely it was.
So back to theta waves. I have a question. Can you play? So, for example, our the theta waves in our brain, they play at a certain frequency.
Yeah.
So can you play that frequency to get into the theta state?
Yes.
Yeah.
Look on YouTube, you'll find tons and tons of either straight frequency or music that's designed to take you into theta
Mhm.
easily,
Right.
everywhere.
Oh,
And
just
just,
like when you're studying and you can play the
mm,
alpha or beta waves
yeah,
to get
yeah,
focus and
yeah.
memory. Okay.
I mean, in an ideal world, to get the best of it, you want headphones on. But if you're trying to go to sleep at night, difficult to wear headphones. But if you just wanted to meditate and take yourself there very quickly, put on a good pair of headphones, get on YouTube, and you'll find hundreds of tracks that will take you to theta.
What are the connections between the vowels and the body?
Ah, I like vowels. Vowels are like vegetables. They are very good for you. I put that in my book because it's absolutely true. They are. Um, Vowels are the power in words. In some ancient languages, I know Hebrew's one of them. I think Arabic might be one, but there's lots of them. The vowels were so powerful, they weren't written down. Only the priests and priestesses got to write vowels. Um, and again, it's got to do with breath to a certain extent because you cannot hold a consonant. You try elongating t or d,
Right.
you
Wow.
can't do it, but you can elongate e. Vowels are incredibly powerful. So they're the powerhouse of words. And again, you've got the combination of breath, and it takes you into the world of toning because people tone vowels, again, to
Mhm.
tune up your auric field, to tune up your immune system, to tune up your energetic chakra system. And chakra means wheels. And again, in ancient wisdom, there are the 7 wheels of the body going up that you want to be in tune. It's part of our energetic well-being. And there are various systems, none of which is better than the others for toning vowels. One of them that I trained with Jonathan Goldman, he's got a system that starts down with your tailbone in the root chakra, which is and then it comes up into your sacral chakra, which is just under your belly button, that's oo. And then he'll come up in the middle of your stomach area, your solar plexus, that's O. And you come into your heart. I think all the systems agree on this one. Ah. Think
Mhm.
of when you like something. Ah.
Right.
R is the heart sound. It doesn't matter which system you use. Then you're coming up into your throat. He brings you to I and A and E right at the top. So he's using that system. And again, you engage the breath ideally. If you're going to run from the bottom to the top, you're going to go O I, and you run it up to the top and you run it back. Again, you're having to engage your breath. You're
Mhm.
breathing properly and you're sounding the vowels, which are very powerful. The ancient Eastern Indian system was more plosive and rhythm driven, which was lum, thum, rum, yum, hum. That's going up. Oh, sometimes they sing those and they tone them, they elongate them. What is true of all the systems is that it works. It tones your chakra system
Mhm.
up.
And it does that
Um,
through vibration.
yeah, and it does it through vibration and your voice and the vowels. Yeah, it's all interlinked. And so the ancients have known this since beyond things being written down back millennia. We're only just rediscovering it now.
Mm.
We're catching
Right.
up.
Yeah, catching up. Can you explain the golden ratio and Pythagoras?
Well, I'm no mathematician, but the golden ratio is the scientific mathematical basis on which much of life is based. So it's the spiral of a galaxy. It's the spiral in your inner ear. It's the way that petals are arranged on a plant or in a pineapple or a pine cone. Wherever you look, there is the basis. This golden ratio is there in creation as a mathematical blueprint.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. And so Pythagoras, he discovered the ratio.
He was a major healer. He was a mathematician. He was a healer. He came up with the musical scale, the Pythagorean scale that's raised off 8 hertz. He was just very aware of all of this. And
Mm.
he, in his mind, there was no difference between using maths and metaphysics. He thought they were the same thing, that you put them together and you had a whole person, a whole healing system. Very bright man.
Right. He also created, the Pythagorean theorem that we learn in school,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
He was an amazing mathematician,
Mm.
but he didn't think that if you were a mathematician and scientist, that you couldn't look at the spiritual side. He believed that the whole person, you were a better person if you did both. To him, it was indivisible.
Mm.
You did both.
Right. Sounds like a great dude. Great
Yeah,
guy.
absolutely. If I have a time machine, I'm going back to meet him.
I would want to meet Tesla for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so as we've discussed, sound is incredibly important to our physical and energetic body, but how is silence?
Oh, I love silence. If speech is silver, then silence is golden. Silence is very important because otherwise we would live in a cacophony. If you think of a piece of music, what makes the piece of music feel or be how it is the gap between the notes. If you ask any musician, particularly a jazz musician, they will tell you the silence, the gap, is as important as the notes. And also in this day and age, silence is as rare as hen's teeth. We live in such noise these days. That's why people feel so good when they go out into nature and sit and just have the background sound of the planet. But it's
Right.
really hard to come by these days. And there are special chambers you can go in called anabolic, I think it's called anabolic chambers, which is true silence. It's scientifically created, and they are, I've not been in one, but I'm told they're very challenging to be in because we're used to so much background
Mhm.
sound. And when you go and sit in them, you can hear your own nervous system and you can hear your heartbeat. Your nervous system is a very kind of high-pitched tune. And it's very unnerving when you first do it. Apparently, you mustn't go into one of these chambers for a very long time when you first start. It's really unnerving. But silence is very important. It's why people go on silent retreats and why sometimes they find them incredibly challenging. Because if we're not talking, we're normally listening to some sound coming back at us. And silence is the space where the magic happens. When I'm using a tuning fork, I strike it and it goes into the body. But I'm very aware as a sound healer that the moment of silence when the tuning fork stops resonating is where the magic happens. So silence is very important.
Mm. And you talked about that you could hear your nervous system
You can.
whenever you're in the anabolic chamber, and that's because it has a frequency
Oh,
and
it does.
makes
With,
sound.
with practice, you can hear it not going in one of those chambers. With practice and meditating, you can start to hear it yourself. It's like a high-pitched whine, and it's not coming into your ears. You're aware it's in your head somewhere. It
Mm.
takes practice, but you can do it.
Right. Okay. Super cool. And earlier again, you talked about how being in nature is so calming, partly because of the silence. But is it partly due to because of the frequencies that plants and the earth is giving off?
I think probably I would say that you're picking up everything sound, and I think you're picking up energetically from all the plants,
Mm.
that essence of life that is growing. I think we're naturally attuned to that, and then we're brought up in all these concrete buildings. And when you put us back in nature, your whole body is energetically tuned to live on this planet, and all the plants and all the sounds and all the birds, we're attuned to it, and we need it for our well-being.
Right. Can you explain the Schumann resonance?
It was named after a scientist, Schumann, who came up with this. It's basically the kind of vibrational soup that we live in between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere at the top. And I think it's to do with lightning bolts and all sorts of things I can't begin to explain, but I do know that it's the gap between the Earth's plate on which we walk and the ionosphere at the top. And it creates a frequency called the Schumann resonances. And it's fairly recent that we have known that this exists. And it is the vibrational soup that we exist in.
Right.
And recently, it used to be quantified as, I think it was 8.5 hertz or about there. And recently, they've noticed that it's been spiking, it's vibrating much higher. And there is a theory that the consciousness of humankind is raising because the human resonance is going up. Now, nobody can actually prove that, but that's the theory.
Right. Okay. Super cool. So the Schumann resonance is the frequency of the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah,
Mm, the
basically, that's the
Okay,
idea. And they
okay.
do say there was some evidence from NASA at one point that when you took humans out of it and you put them up on the International Space Station out of it, that there were consequences for their biorhythms, which could be explained in other things being in outer space, but their all their biorhythms, their sleep patterns, their melatonin, their hormonal balances came out of rhythm when you took them out of the Schumann resonances.
Mm. Wow, and so the Earth's atmosphere has a frequency, but the Earth as well has a
Mm.
frequency, the ground,
Yeah,
I believe it's 7.83 hertz or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
So can you explain there's a fad coming and it's called grounding. So can you explain what grounding is?
I'm aware of grounding sheets. I don't physically know how they work, but we tend to get very ungrounded. We walk on plastic shoes or rubber shoes. We are not connecting the soles of our feet to the earth. So the theory of grounding is if you do have the soles of your feet, which have chakras in them,
Mm.
it connects your entire chakra system back down on the earth, which is it's how we were designed to live before we invented shoes, basically.
Okay,
So a
that's
lot of people now want shoes that have a natural conductivity like leather or something that does, if you think about rubber, it's an insulator, or plastic, that's what you put around an electric wire to insulate it. And
right.
effectively, we've done that to our feet.
Mm,
So we're not in touch with the earth's energy, which we should be. So
okay.
walking barefoot is very good for you. So if you're wearing plastic or rubber soles on your shoes, you've shut down your foot's ability, your body's ability to connect to the earth,
Mm,
because it's an insulator. So if you
right.
put little copper things in the soles of your feet, you've suddenly got a wire, a connectivity that's connecting your body down into the earth again.
Wow.
There's grounding sheets you can sleep on as well, but I'm not going there.
Okay, so cool. Okay. Well, I that's all my questions, I think.
I've just loved doing this, and I just love talking about sound. And sound and sonic vitamins are just, they're so accessible to us once we realize. I mean, that you have your own sonic vitamin. It's called your voice.
Mm,
So be kind to yourself.
it's beautiful. That's the best thing the best way to end it is be kind to yourself. And
Yeah.
that's using your own voice's frequency.
Your own voice, your thoughts in your head, and your own voice. Be kind to yourself. Be
Mm.
your own sonic vitamin.